Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Tom, and today I'm bringing you a special Banned Books book break. And just a note, I am going to be talking about a couple of books that have been challenged or banned in the past and the reasons why they were challenged. But our main book today is a story about this subject. It's called Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. It was published in 2017. It is a 2020 Bluestem Award nominee, and it's great for readers in middle to upper elementary school, as well as their parents. The main character, Amy Ann Ollinger, is in fourth grade, and she's just found out that her favorite book from the mixed up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler by E.L. Konigsberg has been banned from her school library, along with several other books. And she's so upset by this that she convinces her parents to take her to the school board meeting to talk about it. And while she's there, she hears from her school librarian, Mrs. Jones, and also from the parent who has gotten the books banned. So first, let's listen to Mrs. Jones, the school librarian. She says, "It's our job as educators to expose our children to as many different kinds of books and as many different points of view as possible. That means letting them read books that are too easy for them or too hard for them. That means letting them read books that challenge them or do nothing but entertain them. And yes, it means letting students read books with things in them we might disagree with and letting them make up their own minds about things, which is downright scary sometimes. But that's what good education is all about." Now we're going to hear from Mrs. Spencer, the parent who wants to ban the books. She says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the school board, I grew up in this county. I was a student at Shelbourne Elementary once. Back then, the school library was a safe place. A place where parents could trust that their children weren't going to pick up a book that taught them how to lie, or steal, or cheat. They weren't going to find a book that told them more about their bodies than they were ready to know at the age of 10 or 9 or 5. They weren't going to find a book that showed them it was all right to talk back and be disrespectful to adults. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think school should be a place where a parent's authority is undermined. I think it should be a place where it's reinforced." Amy Ann frowns. "No book I'd read in the library had taught me to lie, to steal, or to cheat. Every kid who had any kind of brains knew how to do all that stuff already. And I was respectful of adults. I always did whatever they told me to do, even when I knew it was a load of pony poop." Mrs. Spencer goes on. "Mrs. Jones never used the word censorship, but it was there behind everything she said. I'm not for censorship. I'm for common sense. We have to protect our children. It's not censorship to keep things away from children that aren't age appropriate. It's common sense. This is just 11 books. That leaves thousands more in the elementary school library for our children to enjoy. Far better books, too. I have only asked to remove those books that are inappropriate or have no redeeming value. You made the right decision to remove these books from the library, and I hope you can trust in your own wisdom and common sense as parents to see that no child is ever exposed to them again. Thank you." So that's the argument that she gives for banning these books. Now, Amy Ann was going to speak up in defense of her favorite book, but she chickens out and the books get banned. But what is her favorite book and why does she like it? She wrote this up. She said, "Why From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler is my favorite book." What I had written below that wasn't long, but it had taken me a long time to do it. How do you say why you like a thing? You can point to all the good parts. That you like how they ran away from home to a museum. That you like how Claudia packed her clothes in her empty violin case. That they slept in a big antique bed and took baths in the fountain. That they solve a mystery about an old statue. I like all that stuff about From the Mixed Up Files. But none of those is really the reason I've read it 13 times and still want to read it again. That's something bigger, deeper, more than all those things added together. How do you explain to someone else why a thing matters to you if it doesn't matter to them? How can you put into words how a book slips inside of you and becomes a part of you so much that your life feels empty without it? Now, the books do get banned, but Amy Ann has an idea. And in the chapter called The Big Idea, she lays it out. Like the main character in a book, I was finally going to do something. I was going to read every book Mrs. Spencer and her friends had banned from the school library. I found the list in the newspaper in the library, just like Danny said. And here they are. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, by Judy Blume. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, by Alvin Schwartz. Matilda, by Roald Dahl. Harriet the Spy, by Louise Fitzhugh. Wait Till Helen Comes, by Mary Downing Hahn. It's Perfectly Normal, by Roby H. Harris. From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, by E. L. Konigsberg. All the Junie B. Jones books, by Barbara Park. All the Captain Underpants books, by Dave Pilkey. The Egypt Game, by Zilpha Keatley Snyder. And all the Goosebumps books, by R. L. Stein. It wasn't exactly 11 books, like Mrs. Spencer said. It was way more than 11 books when you counted all the gajillion Goosebumps books and the big shelf of Captain Underpants and Junie B. Jones books. I had already read 5 of the books on the list, if you count reading a couple of Goosebumps and a couple of Junie B. Jones books. The others I'd read were Matilda, awesome, Harriet the Spy, awesome, and From the Mixed Up Files, super awesome, of course. I'd never heard of It's Perfectly Normal or The Egypt Game, but The Egypt Game sounded especially good. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark and Wait Till Helen Comes I'd seen on the shelf, but I'd never checked them out because they look scary, and I'm not a big fan of scary books. But I was definitely going to read Wait Till Helen Comes now, because her friend recommended it. I hadn't read Captain Underpants either, and I didn't want to. Captain Underpants was stupid. I would read that one last. Now, if you're a fan of Captain Underpants, don't hold it against her. Everybody likes different things. The only book I was worried about was Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I knew that book, of course. It was on the shelf right beside Judy Blume's other books, like Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing, awesome, and Super Fudge, awesome. Shelbourne Elementary goes up through 6th grade, so some of the books in the library are for older kids. Are You There, God? Had a cover that said 6th grade to me, and I'd heard other kids whispering about it in the school bathroom, so I'd always stayed away from it. But I was resolved. I was going to read each and every one of the books Mrs. Spencer said I couldn't, just to spite her. I knew she'd never know, and that it wasn't like I was doing something that would help Mrs. Jones get the books back on the shelves. But I still felt a secret thrill at doing something an adult told me not to do. So she goes on to get those books. She buys some. She gets some of her friends to loan copies of the books that they own. And pretty soon, she's got her own mini library with all the books that are on the banned list. And what she finds out is that other kids at the school are also curious about those books too and would like to read them. So, in another chapter called The Bigger Idea, here's what she does. I cleared out the shelf in my locker. On it I put my copies of From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, shiver, Danny's copy of Wait Till Helen Comes, and Rebecca's copy of It's Perfectly Normal, which I only peeked at. Jana let me have a couple of old Junie B. Jones books she had at home, and Danny got his friend Parker to donate his whole collection of Goosebumps books. When Jana gave me back The Egypt Game, I would have a total of 14 books. 14 books banned by Mrs. Spencer and her friends, free to borrow for any student who wanted to read them. And that's how the Banned Books Locker Library began. I still had 4 books to go to have all the banned books. Well, more than that if you counted all the other Goosebumps and Junie B. books and Captain Underpants books, but all I really still needed was Harriet the Spy, Matilda, Are You There, God It's Me, Margaret, and a Captain Underpants book. Then I'd have at least one of everything on Mrs. Spencer's list. And so she goes on to gather the books, and as books are banned, she makes them available in her locker for friends to secretly check out from her and read on their own because they would like to read them. And that's just a little taste of Ban This Book by Alan Gratz. Now, if you'd like to learn more about banned and challenged books, you can head on over to the American Library Association's website at ala.org. They have a whole section on banned and challenged books. That includes lists of frequently challenged books and the reasons why they were challenged. They also include lists by year and what the most frequently challenged books by year were. I can say that the Oak Lawn Library does own many of these books if you find that you're interested in them. As always, the books that you choose will depend on many things, including conversations with your parents and your own preferences. We at the library are here to help you find what's right for you. Thank you.